Once again, I apologize for the late video, but let's talk about a new subject. Specifically, when to be immoral. Now, needless to say, morality generally frowns upon such things. I mean, if something is considered wrong or immoral, well then logically, it shouldn't be done. But there are select instances where some immorality becomes a necessity in society. Now, let's run through them. When the only other option is a worse outcome, then immorality becomes a good choice. Because when it's immoral action versus immoral action, much like with negatives, you go for the smaller one, small infraction. For example, if it's theft or murder, you go for theft. To give an example, because this may not make sense otherwise. If the choice is between stealing something from someone so they don't kill someone else, then logically, you should steal that thing. If that person is going to commit murder specifically, and by stealing something you prevent that murder, then while yes, you have committed an immoral act because theft is wrong, you have prevented an even more immoral act, murder. It thus becomes the lesser of two evils. Is it still wrong? Yes, because stealing functions in a way that diminishes trust and has negative consequences for society. But it is still the better outcome to suffer theft than murder. And so the immorality becomes a necessary one. 2. When morality allows for the perpetuation of immorality, things like compassion, benevolence, etc., they can be turned into a way to allow immoral acts to continue through the extension of mercy far beyond what is reasonable for a situation. For example, if someone constantly is stealing and constantly drunk driving, logically, you shouldn't want them on the road or out in the streets, because they are a constant threat to the moral population. And so the compassion and benevolence that one may propose, given how low of a crime it is, would not fit with the situation, and thus a more immoral and thus more cruel action can become necessary, including but not limited to death. So if someone's actively harming or risking harm to the lives of others for immoral reasons, well then, yeah, sometimes you just have to put them in the dirt. And also, when left with no other option, sometimes immorality becomes the only choice. If you have to do an immoral act, like say, killing another person, to survive, well then, you have to kill that person. That's just how it is sometimes. But one may argue that it's not necessarily an immoral act since it's killing, not murder or manslaughter. Fair enough. To give a better example, would you rather kill one person or have someone else kill a family? Probably the one person, because a family is more than one, thus more people are being spared. And of course, when lives are in your hand and you have to choose between the deaths of few or many, killing the few is still immoral. But it is, much like the above, a lesser evil. Because you are sparing more lives. It is a net gain. Because you subtract the amount you did kill to those you saved, and it is positive. Now, the main running thread with all these is essentially immorality is not something you want, nor should it be perpetuated by society. But sometimes it becomes the necessary choice to prevent worse outcomes. That's the key. It's not your first choice. It's the last resort. To use the example with the person and the family, would it be better if everyone got to live? Yes. That is the preferential option. But do you always have those choices? No. Sometimes you straight up just have to accept that someone's going to die. It's not a pleasant belief, nor is it a particularly moral one, but it is a realistic and understanding one. We do not live in a world of superheroes and greats who can make the impossible possible. We just live in a world where the world itself does not care. It will go on and on and on without us. So we must care in its place. And when our care goes in two different directions, we must choose the side that hurts the least, that does the least damage. And that is exactly why necessary evils become necessary. The fox is needed sometimes, deception used, and truth hidden, not because it is some great moral act, just because the other option would be suicidal, essentially, or would otherwise hurt people unnecessarily. You sometimes have to be immoral. It is not a position I like, but it's just a true assessment. When you're dealing with people, rarely do you get to be kind. Sometimes you basically have no other choice but to be completely and utterly rude and blunt, because to do otherwise would be to hurt a third party, and hurting tertiary people is not a good thing. Kindness is good. If you can use it, do it. If it actually works, even better. But when it clearly doesn't, when doing so actually hurts yourself or others, in such cases, you must sometimes take the immoral road, the road that hurts people, because to do otherwise would result in more hurt, more pain. That is just how the world is, whether we like it or not. And so we must make decisions based upon it, and towards that reality for which we pursue. So that is when to be immoral. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good day.